Okay, we're now in episode 9. And we've seen an awful lot of stuff, so I think I'm going to take an opportunity to review. Where we had stopped is that I had closed episode 8 saying that I was going to explain that this, which usually translated in most English translations as swaddling clothes, it means grave cloths. But you can read it both ways, really. And what I think I'm going to do instead is put a link in the video description once I find where it was that I covered this, because I did a word study on it. My pastor spent a lot of time exegeting this. And so I'm going to go back through the notes on that class and find out where it was that I had written up the word search that I did in order to see and understand what he was talking about. He insists that this means grave clothes, and he went to a great deal of trouble over several days showing us the exegesis, and then I did a word search some years later to see why he did that. And it ties to a passage in Ezekiel, specifically I think it is Ezekiel 16, a parallel to God finding Israel weltering in her blood. And that's going to be quite a long study. So I'm just going to put a link in the video description to explain why this means grave cloths, rather than swaddling clothes like for a baby. But there is one principle that they have in common that I am going to mention, and then I'm going to move on. The idea when you give birth, remember, they didn't have modern medicine. They didn't have sanitary conditions like we do. Now, one thing Israel was blessed with was a dry climate for the most part. But at the same time, there were certain problems. Like, for example, in Israel, especially in April, May, and March, the minute you started to crush grapes, they would almost immediately start to ferment, which implies that there was a high degree of bacterial mold, spores in the atmosphere. And that was one problem that they often had. So they dry their grapes and they'd use raisins soaked in water to, drink from, rather than have actual alcoholic wine. But they did drink wine on a daily basis, just like the French do. They didn't get drunk. You don't get drunk just because you drink alcohol. You have to do it right. So because of that problem, you're looking at a bacterial issue, and what they would do with their children, and you see this in other countries still to this day, is as soon as a child is born, you wash it, obviously. But then you wrap it. It's like bandaging wounds. You take strips of cloth and you encircle each part of the body with it, almost like a mummy. Okay? And that's exactly what my pastor stressed when he talked about this. You wrap it like a mummy because what you're trying to do is protect the newborn skin from any kind of contamination. Okay, and also from the sun, and a bunch of other things. Alright, but that wasn't the only way that you wrap babies, but that was the main way you wrapped corpses. And what my pastor stressed the most about this particular phrase here was that Mary and Joseph, and we've seen how they obviously knew the heartbreaking nature of the prophecy being given to them. They knew that this was going to be the Christ on the cross of Isaiah 53, and they were commemorating their acceptance of that future symbolically by wrapping him as if he were a corpse. My pastor really stressed this, and since he exegeted Bible for 50 years on a daily basis to his own congregation, and I can't find any other pastor in history who's done that, at least not recent history, I'm going to go with him. But I actually did a word study that independently, provided background and sort of justified it, which kind of surprised me, how he came up with the interpretation. And it's an interpretation that others have disputed. Okay? So I'm just going to put a link in there and sort of close with that. The point you're supposed to get from this, that my pastor would have wanted me to say, he's dead now, is that they are wrapping him as if he were a corpse at birth, to signify their recognition and acceptance of the prophecy of his death. In other words, God first, the fact that he's our son, and all our personal feelings are second. That's real important. I mean, it's fine to love life and other people and to want money and fame and wealth are all the things that people want. But God first. If God is first, you'll enjoy the rest. If God's not first, it doesn't matter what you have or lack. You'll never be happy. And so that gives you a real important insight in a few words, Bible economy of, wording. That gives you a real insight into their mindset at his birth. They're looking first at the meaning of it on the macro God level, not on their personal feelings, not on the personal scandal that they themselves are suffering. And they know that their future is bleak. They know that they're in for persecution until the day they die. And they signify that because that's his future. So they wrap him as if he were a corpse. My pastor stressed that, so now I have. And like I said, the link will be, in the sidebar as soon as I find out where, I wrote it. Okay, and then they lay him in a feeding trough. Yeah, because everybody feeds off the bread of heaven in order to get saved. It's all symbolic. It's true that they couldn't find any room at the inn, but once they find a place, putting him in a manger is a very fit, again, showing the mindset of the parents. And whether this was an actual inn or a friend's house, and it's called an inn because you could put up your relatives or friends in the attached garage, so to speak, which housed animals. That's a debatable question. I've seen both sides presented, and the arguments on both sides are plausible. I don't particularly care. We can interpret inn as being a commercial establishment or not. All right, this is our translation, but the actual Greek can encompass both meanings. So they could have been staying at a friend's house, and that does make sense. And it's called an inn because the translators called it an inn, not because that's what it was. Again, there's no star in Bethlehem. There's no Star of Bethlehem. Okay, so this might not be a commercial establishment either. And there might have been more than one inn, too. So no room for them at the guest house. So they had to stay in the feed trough. Why? Because it's Hanukkah. And because that's when the census has to go up. This is the first time Quirinius was having the rank. Why? Because Herod was dying, as everybody knew. So the typical method would have been, this wouldn't even need to be there. If Herod was alive and well, the Jews would collect the tax and send their own people, their own entourage, all the way back to Rome to give it to Caesar, saving Caesar the expense. But Herod's dying. The political situation is therefore tense, made more tense because these guys are creating a great big political problem with the chief enemy of Rome. So it's a real good thing that Quirinius was nearby with Gaius, with some troops. And yeah, he'd be given the rank of governor in order to collect the tax. And yeah, he'd want to oversee the census because this guy is too sick. You see how that fits? It's just a question of what year is this. It's either 1 BC or 2 BC or 4 BC. Christ is born at the end of a year. So if we say 1 BC, it's really the end of 2 BC. And it might be the end of 3 BC. 4 BC, which we would be calling 3 BC. I've got to fine tune it, and actually, Paul gives us the date scheme. So as soon as I figure out where I'm making my math error with Paul, I've got a 1-year variance that I can't account for yet. And as soon as I figure out where that is, I'll be able to fine tune this, and I'll put the answer in the 11 GGS video series, because that's where I'm doing the Paul thing. Okay. So we've dispensed with Claus, and you're sort of taking me at my word right now, because I'm telling you I got it from my pastor, and then I can independently prove it. And you can always, hear him talk about it, because even though he's dead, the classes are live, recorded, and free. Okay, so she lays him in a feed trough. Manger means feed trough. I don't know anybody in Christendom who doesn't know that. It's one of the few things that there is no debate. Manger means feed trough for animals. Okay? We're all animals. And again, there's this mild debate about whether inn means a friend's house and a guest room in a friend's house. And so they call it an in translation, but that's not really what the Greek means. Or whether it really means a commercial establishment, or whether the term is used in both ways. The answer is the term is used in both ways. Okay, so which of the two ways is this talking about? I don't know. And I don't really care, to be honest. The important thing is this. The other important thing that the Bible is stressing is that there was no room. There's no room in the hearts of man for God. So, he's wrapped as a corpse, presaging Isaiah 53:9. And he's put in a feed trough because he's the bread of heaven, the bread of life, being given for mankind. And the parents of their own firstborn son are subordinating their own feelings, their own thoughts, not because they're, oh, see how proud I am that I'm subordinating myself. That's not their attitude. They're busy thinking about the meaning of his birth. That's why they're doing this. They're not giving up anything. They're preoccupied with God. They're thinking of God when they do this. They're thinking of the meaning when they do this. When you're watching your favorite movie, are you proud of yourself because you're watching the movie? No, you're busy enjoying the movie and thinking about the movie. When you really love something, you don't pat yourself on the back. You don't notice how good you are. You don't even care. You're not even thinking of it. It's not important. So this tells us that their focus is on God and the meaning that God is giving them. And they're not thinking about their own sacrifice. They're making one, but to them it's not a sacrifice. They're getting something. And they're thinking about the meaning. And that's why they're doing what they're doing. They don't have to put him in a manger. They don't have to wrap him as if he's a corpse. They're the parents. They can, put him in their lap. They can put him, in a chair. But they're not doing that. This is their own personal attitude being expressed here. They're doing that. They're choosing to do this themselves. It's private. I don't know, maybe they got some friends around them, but there's nobody else mentioned. And there's no magi. There are no magi present. So who is present? Well, we're going to get into that now. Remember up here, we got the joke about the star. And I've been telling you, but it's like, how did you know? That this is all Hanukkah time. Of course, everybody reading the story would have known that. And they would have known it from what? Haggai 2, which Matthew's leaving out. He's mentioning kitchen-made stuff. If you're a son of David, you have to go to Bethlehem. You don't even need this prophecy to know that he's born in Bethlehem. You don't need that. He's a son of David. Bethlehem is where Joseph has to go. You wouldn't need any text to tell you this. So this is unnecessary. The where question is what the Magi ask, because they can't see the star anymore. It led them to Jerusalem because that's where the couple is. That's why you know it's an angel, for your first hint. It's really, really very witty and funny. Okay? All the Jews would have been laughing at this, because they know it's not a star. That would be forbidden. God doesn't use astrology. You got the death penalty for using astrology, so God isn't going to use astrology or astronomy to advertise his son. He's not going to do that. It's against the law. It's against the Jewish law. Deuteronomy 18, death penalty for it. So this is very wry that astrologers, who if they were Jewish, they would be, have to be executed, come into Jerusalem, which is supposed to be so believing in God and holy and religious and all that. They're talking about a star? That's astrology. Yeah, that's pretty upsetting because nobody can see any star. Okay? So instead of bringing up Haggai 2 to tell you, hi, it's Hanukkah right here, Matthew leaves it out because it's obvious to his audience when it is. Everybody knew when Jesus was born. Our incompetent church fathers didn't bother to consult the Jews, so they'd have known. The Jews knew. whether they liked Jesus or not, they knew when this happened. And they would be telling the story to their relatives and their children because they hated him or because they liked him. But everybody knew. And so to bring the place up, which is like every school kid knew that, this is all the prophets can say. The chief priests and scribes are so dumb, all they can do is talk about Bethlehem. They can't talk about the thing they're in charge of, which is time. Wrong question to the wrong people. You could ask the 5-year-old this question. 5-year-old would know this. But it was up to the chief priests and scribes to tell you the calendar every year. They set the calendar every single year. They had to look up at the sky and chart the stars to know when the new moons were, to know when the festivals were, to chart Passover, the whole bit. And they didn't know what time it was. And Herod isn't asking them what time it is. It's when Herod, but Herod should be asking when. But he's not. He's asking where. And they're too dumb to live. They should have answered him with when, because any school child knows where. But they answer him with where and a quote that 5-year-olds would know. So this stresses, see, again, this is Greek drama, and a lot of other kinds of drama too. There's a lot of different ways to portray something dramatic. You make it dramatic if it's in ellipsis. If you leave it out, especially if it's embarrassing, which this is. Or it's dramatic if you stress it, bang, bang, bang. Okay? Here it's a kind of stress and dramatic because, and Matthew is funneling to this quote. Because by funneling to this quote, he's telling you the more important quote that's missing. He's leaving out Haggai 2, because he's quoting them. And this is what they say, but it's not what they should be saying. They should be saying Haggai 2. So he omits the higher and more important answer that, by the way, everybody reading this story already knows. So this ends up having a comic effect of how stupid the chief priests and scribes were, or how dull-minded, to just talk about Bethlehem, which any school kid knows. So Matthew is stressing the fact that it's the Feast of Lights, Hanukkah. God dedicates his son at the dedication holiday of the temple because Christ is the temple depicts. And it was a secular holiday. It was not authored under the Mosaic Law. And all he does about the light meaning, because the Feast of Lights is the Feast of Lights is the title that they give to Hanukkah because it was symbolized by a bunch of people, really it was 10 o'clock in the morning, a bunch of people going down to the temple after they'd gotten rid of the Greeks. And they're all in this candlelight procession, okay, to clean the temple. And then they have another procession and, the cruise of oil and all that stuff. One of the stories that I learned when I was 7 years old, 5 years old, something like that. We all learned that story, okay? And it's in the book of Maccabees, actually, which is not a Bible book. But the first 2 books of Maccabees are pretty accurate. You can verify them. All right, so all he has to do is say star. And every Jew knows star has to mean angel. God doesn't use astrology or astronomy. It's forbidden under the Mosaic Law. Penalty of death. So this is an angel. Light. You get that. It's real important. He's omitting Haggai 2, and that stresses the fact that it is Haggai 2. And he uses star for his light metaphor, okay, which they see because it's really an angel that is proagoing, leading, that's a cognizant act of going on in front of somebody and constantly looking back to make sure they're following you, and then standing still over, on top of what's going to be the oikon, the house, the great house. This is in Nazareth at that point, which you find out at the end of the chapter. You with me on this? This is Matthew's rhetorical style. He's introducing Feast of Lights metaphor by the word star. Okay? And really rising from the east also. East also means rising. Okay? It's got that play on words, that dual entendre. And he's also stressing the fact that it's Hanukkah by not saying anything about Haggai 2, because after all, he's relating what other people are saying and doing here. He's not making commentary of his own position, or he's not observing. He's not rendering observations like later gospel writers will do. He's just giving you bang, bang, bang a narrative. But he could have inserted a commentary right here. Okay? Or he could have inserted a commentary right here. He could have inserted an explanatory verse between here and there. Between verse 2 and 3, he could have inserted an explanatory verse about Haggai 2, but he doesn't. He leaves it out, because everybody knows. So by leaving it out, he stresses it. That's a Greek technique, and presumably it's a Hebrew technique also. You can see it in Isaiah 53, the way he omits words. Ellipsis is a dramatic technique in drama. Okay? So that's how he's telling you it's Feast of Lights. Now Luke is going to capitalize on on what Matthew leaves out, just like he's been doing. Okay? See, look at this. Matthew is what? A tax collector. That was his office before he was called to be an apostle. So what does Luke do? To make sure you know he's playing on Matthew, he talks about taxes. The census is only taken for taxes under the Roman Empire. They didn't really, care a whole lot about you as long as you paid your taxes and didn't break laws. Okay, they weren't trying to micromanage their provinces. That was one of the good things about Augustus. He was a very able administrator. Okay, so Luke, in order to play to Matthew, plays on what Matthew used to do for a living. See, Matthew would have been one of the guys administering the census in his old job before he became a disciple of Christ. That's what Matthew would have done. There's not, there's just too many points that Luke is tying to, and then of course we talked about the reverse order trip. Galilee, Nazareth, Bethlehem, in reverse order from Matthew's presentation. Started by talking about Matthew's old job, which changed under Caesar Augustus, when Augustus reformed the tax law. Okay, wrestling the Senate to do so for quite a while, and then getting it done in the provinces under Quirinius. And then, because Herod is dying, Rome has to get involved in the administration of the first census, but it's still Jews that are sitting there collecting it. But there's got to be Roman oversight now, because if Herod is dead, how do they know that the transmission of the tax is going to be secure? They don't know when he's going to die. So they have to have some more direct oversight over it. They can't rely on, because as long as Herod's alive, and even when he's sick, he's pretty strong-minded, and people listen to him. But the minute he's dead, honey, that whole tax collection's in jeopardy. So they got to have a little more, closer oversight. But they're not still physically collecting the tax from the Jews. They're collecting it from the Jewish officials who collected the tax from the Jews. You got that? So that's why the census, which would have had to be done anyway, under Jewish law just as well as Roman law, and it's happening at the end of the year, and it's a head tax. That was the reform that Augustus put in, especially for the provinces. Okay? And this is the personal attitude of the couple, Mary and Joseph, subordinating themselves because they're so interested. They're so, how do you want to call it? They're so busy looking at the beauty of, the meaning of what Christ is going to grow up to be. They're not thinking about how good they are, that they're observing. Okay? That's not on their minds. You don't wrap somebody in grave clothes and stick him in a feed trough if you're trying to be religious. You would do something else, something ostentatious. They're not. They're looking at the poetry of it. And they're not poor. Joseph was a general contractor. He did a lot of construction. He was like a major construction, employer in the area. I don't know why we have to paint them as poor. Big lie. These are aristocrats. These people should have been the king and queen of Israel. They should have been the king and queen of Israel by rights. Okay? And again, we covered what that meant. All right? So, we now come to the shepherds. And it's 25 minutes. So I think I'm going to take a little break and come back so that I don't have trouble with my machine recording. But before I break this increment, star here is introduction to the whole dedication, Feast of Lights, the not said Haggai 2 that should be right in here between verse 2 and verse 3, or at least here in the reply of the people who should have known about it the most, because they were in charge of time, telling all Israel what the time was, were these guys highlighted in blue on the left. So this should be Haggai 2 sitting here, not Bethlehem, which every school child knows. Everybody knows David was born in Bethlehem. So this is not what needs to be said. All right, first David and last David both born in Bethlehem. Duh. Who doesn't know that? Okay. But Haggai 2 should have been cited down here. So Matthew's not only funneling to the place where he's born, he's telling you by omitting Haggai 2 how stupid these people were. Or negative. Because they don't know what time it is. And of course they can't see a star that's really an angel because they don't believe in the Star of Jacob, which is Balaam's title for Christ. Okay, so the next increment we're going to pick up on how Luke plays to Matthew in the star thing. It's really hysterical. Okay, we're back. Now we have a slightly different change in the windows. On the left-hand side, I've highlighted what Luke is playing to. Okay, star, light. Stars represent angels. Angels represent revelation, light of the Lord, emissaries of the Lord, heralds. Those are all the connotations. The word angel really means messenger. And sometimes in the Bible, like in Revelation, it's mistranslated angel when it really means messenger because of that dual entendre meaning. You see the same thing happen in Deuteronomy 32:8, but I'm not sure that's a mistranslation in Deuteronomy 32:8. Angelos, angeloi, is the angels are represented as stars. Star means somebody who is, how do you want to call it? A kind of heir, representative of God. That's the idea behind it, God being light. Angels have bodies of light. Hanukkah is the Feast of Lights. Hanukkah is the dedication of lights. It's got that title because of the parade that took place on the day that they were going down to the temple in the morning to clean it. And then, I don't know if they finished it by that day. I kind of doubt it. It should have taken several days. The procession that they finally ended up having at night, for which the holiday is named. That initial procession, okay, when they were dedicating the temple again, is what Hanukkah means. It means dedication. And there are two chief Hebrew words that signify dedication. And there are two different kinds of dedication. Chanukah, which is where we get Enoch, is talking about dedication of your person to God. Okay? And then there's another word, Nazar, which is variantly translated in Greek, and we're going to see how Luke does it, which means to guard. All right, it's your dedication to your job. So the first is the dedication of your person, Chanukah, which is where Hanukkah comes from. And then there's Nazar, which is the dedication to your job, i.e. the shepherds that we're now going to see. Okay? The dedication to your job as Nazar, shepherd, is translated in various ways in Greek, tereo being one of them. That means really to cherish and hold close, but it is usually translated to guard, and it does have that connotation. But it's talking about the mental attitude. Whereas Nazar is talking about the actual, how do you want to call it? It's like a soldier being on point. He's dedicated to his job. All of his attention is fixed on his job, doing his job right, getting his job right. The job means everything to him at that moment. Nothing else or very little else is crowding in on his thoughts. Okay? That's translated with Greek verb philoso. And that's what we're going to see used of the shepherds in here in Luke 2. But before you get to Luke 2, he introduces the theme of the Feast of Lights with light by using another prophecy. Remember, back up here, I have to show it to you so you can see that Luke is playing. He's matching quotes with Matthew as well. Okay, I'm going to have to, because the NASB is not, index is not really good. Okay, oops, wrong verse. Sorry. Okay, wait a minute. Verse 23 is what I want. Alright. That is quoting Isaiah 7:14 and 9:6. See, look. Look on the right-hand side of the screen, it's Isaiah 9:2. Luke is even wrapping to the verses that Matthew references by his, citation of keywords. And, all the Bible scholars know this. I mean, this is the Treasury of Scripture database. This is not brain out inventing something or commenting on something. This is, standard theology. See? Isaiah 9:6 is part of what Matthew's quoting. He's quoting a number of verses. All right, like Isaiah 7:14 is another one, see? That's the virgin part. Okay, but then he's also incorporating by reference this very common technique. The Lord uses it all the time in the New Testament. All right? All right, so the Isaiah 9:6 passage, which is 9:5 in the Greek New Testament, and there are several different families. This is a compilation by Bible Works people of what they think is the most accurate text amongst all the families. This is their opinion as to the most accurate one. And you can, they provide the others so you can compare it. All right. So, what do you got here? You got quotation from the LXX going on here. All right, partial, obviously. Okay, that's in 9:6 with 7:14. All right. See, here's Parthenos. That means virgin. There's no room for doubt about what that means in Greek. All right, and that's used for Amma in Hebrew. I think it's Amma. Yeah. Is that Amma? Should be. Okay, wait a minute. Because this is one of the Jewish arguments against Christ, is that it only means... Oops, that's Amen. I'm sorry. I'm not good. My spelling with Hebrew is really horrible. Okay. See, here's Parthenos. Okay. Here, better, more easily seen. Okay. That's fair. All right. But it's got a narrower meaning in Greek. These are Jews translating the Hebrew. Okay? So they're looking at that meaning, virgin meaning, not yet having sex, obviously unmarried. So they're narrowing the semantic range. Okay. All right, so let's get back. He's using Matthew's using Isaiah 9:6 and Isaiah 7:14. So Luke is going to play to Isaiah 9 section. Because it's Hanukkah. So see, he's tying to Matthew. I shouldn't be yelling. He's tying to Matthew at the same time. He's tying to Matthew, the verses Matthew's quoting, but he's selecting a different part of the same passage. Because Matthew's only using star, and Luke is going to elaborate on the light thing, which is also in Isaiah 53 in the LXX, not in the Hebrew. Okay, I know that Muller found that scroll, the Isaiah scroll, and it's got the word for light in it. And I spent like 3 years trying to find missing words in Isaiah. But that's how I learned about the whole Hebrew meter thing in the first place. Because I decided that I had to find out the meter in order to find out if there were missing words. Because if you've got something metered, you can tell the number of syllables that are missing, and therefore decipher what words are missing. And I spent like 3 years doing that. And to my surprise, I found meter. And then I found it in Psalm 90, and all that's recorded in the videos. Okay, our boy, Luke, is playing on what Matthew just quoted up here in Isaiah 9, but he's not picking up on the child part. He's picking up on what? The question that Herod should have asked. When? What Matthew leaves out. When? Haggai 2. Now, because it's so rich a joke that they're asking the wrong question, Herod's asking the wrong question. This is the question he should be asking, but this is the question the magi asked. So he's asking the wrong question to the people he should be asking when to. So Matthew leaves it out in silence, in ellipsis. And to indicate the time, he just uses one word, star. Very common technique in literature and especially in the Bible. Because, people memorize the text, so you're very economical with your text. It's taking me longer to explain it than it does to see the text itself. So Luke is starting here, quoting Isaiah 9:2 to tie back to Matthew's quote of Isaiah 9:6. But he's stressing when. See? Same verse that light is in. This is so sophisticated. They're asking where. Where is it? Because we saw the light. Okay? There's a prophecy to the Gentiles in Isaiah 9. Not just the Jews. And it's Gentiles who are talking here. You get the wit? And they're getting light. They see light. And they're asking where. But the light is the symbol of when. When. Herod should have been asking these people, or these people should have been smart enough to reply, when. But they didn't see the light. This is the kind of finesse that the Greek writers all do this too. Okay, there's a very established style to play games like this with words, leaving some words out and stressing others, and being very, very deft, just inserting one word, star, to tell you a whole bunch of stuff. When? When is the Feast of Lights? What is the chief characteristic? Everybody's got a candle in his hand going to the temple. And what is the King of the Jews but the temple that the temple depicted? The temple was the promise that the Messiah would come. That's why it was there. God dwelling in the temple symbolized God taking on humanity. God dwelling in humanity in the future. So that there would be a human temple in eternity. That's the topic of Ephesians 2. And because it's reversal, and because Paul is the guy that's talking about church, the second wall of the temple is basically Luke's charge. He's got to build around Matthew, because Matthew's about Jew. And the reversal, and Matthew's obviously talking about reversal here, because this is a reversal of what should be happening. This should be Haggai 2, not Malachi or wherever it was. Okay, where is that verse? Reversal is going on for the Jews. They're going to play Vashti, and you're getting a taste of coming attractions. Yeah, Micah 5:2. Sorry, it's in Micah. See, that's the quote that Matthew's quoting. That's where. Everybody knew that. But the when is what they no longer knew. They forgot what time it was, and these were the guys in charge of time. So when, being as it's not seen, is shown by a light. Being asked by the guys who predicted when things were supposed to occur by the wrong means that was punishable by death in Israel. Persian magi. And they're asking the wrong question. They're asking where, because they can't see the star now. Why? Because the star is guarding the couple. The couple are in Jerusalem, and Herod's going to try to kill the couple once he finds out where they are. So answering where, they're in Jerusalem. See? This is Matthew's deft wit. He just told you where. See? Jerusalem. The couple are in Jerusalem. You can't see the star now. It led you to where? Jerusalem. Not Bethlehem. Because they got to go to the temple and dedicate the son 8 days after birth and the mother 40 days after birth. So the where is Jerusalem. So now they can't see the star. That's why they have to ask where. But they should be asking, well, they already know when, because they've been led there so by the angel. They saw it. The God let them see the angel so that they could come worship, because they were positive. When is that? See, this is his, look at his roping technique. That's a where. So following that is where. Jerusalem is where he who has been born King of the Jews is. See the deft wit? Okay, and so now he's going to parallel that kind of construction. Star is a when. Light. Feast of Lights. Chanukah. So what does he next do? See, you got where matched to where they are. The answer to the question is Jerusalem. When? The star. Feast of Lights. Angels. Dedication of temple. That answers when. See, first he did the place first, answering this question. The question is asked next. Okay, so now he's answering the question before the question is asked. Because the when question isn't being asked until down here. And it's asked to the wrong people. See, you could say, for when we saw his star, we came. When Herod, see how clever this is? These are the kind of words games that they play in Greek drama and other dramas too. See how sophisticated it is? Okay, so star is your only light word in Matthew. So what has Luke got to do? This is Daddy's speech, okay? Daddy giving up all of his rights, knowing he's going to go into ostracism because he votes for this. See, he's dedicating his child to what the angel said was supposed to be his life. Which basically in the ears of everybody hearing him, they're going to say, oh, you're nuts. You think your kid's Elijah? Oh, yeah. Okay? But he's quoting the prophecy. He knows what's going to happen to him as a result. He's ready for retirement, or he's just retired anyhow. Or they're going to retire him as a result of that. That part of it you can bet on. To shine upon those. This is number 6. The end of number 6. The light of the Word of God shining on your face. See, when Moses met God, when Moses came out of the temple after meeting God, the tent in those days, Moses' face was shining, so he had to veil it. Because he was face to face with God. The Word of God shining on his face. So there became this blessing at the end of number 6, that may the face of God shine upon you. Meaning may be illuminated by the Word. Feast of Lights to the temple, because the idea was the temple represented God. The temple represented the learning of God. So it was shiny. And everything in it was shining. It was gold-plated on the inside in parts. Holy of Holies, for example. All right? To shine upon those who sit in darkness and the shadow of death, which is, okay, Isaiah 9:6 we just saw. Guide our feet in the way of peace. And that's real cute. Way means road. Peace, well, shalom. Yerushalayim, which is where, what? Mary and Joseph are located right now. Jerusalem is where they are. At the Feast of Lights, so of course the Magi are seeing a star. So Luke is beginning to introduce his wryness of the topic of the Feast of Lights by quoting Zecharias, who did really say this. It's not that he didn't, but he said a lot of things. Luke is picking what to say to set his themes. This is political suicide, quoting Malachi 4, 5, and 6. This is Isaiah 9:2, tacking on to the end of Matthew 1 to set up the theme for Luke 2, lights. And the only thing Matthew says about it is the star, because he doesn't have to say more. Everybody knows it's the Feast of Lights. But Luke is gonna tweak it. And remember, we got to get into the whole personal effects, personal thought patterns, the effect on this personal, because this is kind of impersonal and political and tweaky, okay? But Luke's going to focus on the personal. See, Matthew doesn't focus on the personal attitudes versus office until down here. Remember I said that in, what was it, episode 7 or 6? I think it was 7. Luke's going to pick up on that also in reverse order and start talking about it now, which is why we got to be dealing with it now. But he's opening it up with the personal effect of light on you at the Feast of Lights, where all these persons are all crowded together because it's the biggest holiday of the year, ending the year, compounded by the fact that everybody has to register for the census. So there's a lot of travel. See, people are going all over to their hometowns in Jerusalem, and Jerusalem ends up being a stopping place on the way because it's Hanukkah and because, you know, it's a way to make a holiday out of the event. You know, crops are already in, the replanting's done, and there's nothing more to do. It's December, and it's not necessarily that cold. All right? But it's not, 90 degrees either. All right, so now they're already in Jerusalem. See, she gives birth. This is where he starts introducing the theme of personal. You notice how he doesn't say anything about the scandal and being a virgin pregnancy here. He's already covered that in Luke 1, which we're going to go back to. But she's already given birth. There's no room. This is the day of the birth. All right? And what happens? I want you to see the parallel. Day of the birth. In the same region, this is right around Bethlehem, this is probably the fortress of Migdal. Now, when my pastor exegeted Luke 2 and was going through the stuff I'm telling you now, he speculated that it was probably the Migdal fortress. Because that was, when you guarded sheep in those days, you didn't need enclosures because it wasn't that cold. But what you did need is you had to have some kind of high enough walls to keep the wolves out at night. Because, especially if you had a lot of sheep, you wouldn't be able to have enough shepherds stationed properly. Okay? But you would have some. And they've got to really be on their guard because this is when the wolves come. Alright, and this is where I got to stop. While shepherds watch their flocks by night, sleeping on the ground. Okay, we all know that song. Fulasso. That's Strong's, which is very weak. You see, it provides almost no information. Doesn't give you any morphology. Here's the actual word. Fulashontes. Fulashontes. Fula. You're supposed to raise your voice with the A. I have to play with that. Okay, I'm just not in the mood to do it right now. Fulashontes. Fulasso is the Greek verb. Right here. There's there on it. See? Guard. Okay? Used for Nazar. Natsar, literally, the right pronunciation. Nazareth means Natzaret. Okay? And it means to stand guard. It does mean to watch, to keep watch, have guard, have an eye on. In other words, you're on point. If something bad happens, you got to raise the alarm or defend. They're on watch. They are the Natsarim. You got that wordplay on Nazareth? It's deliberate. They're dedicated in the sense of the job dedication versus Chanukah, which is the dedication of the person. Dedication of the temple means the dedication of the entity, the thing, the object. But this is the dedication to the job, your mental attitude of guarding. And that's what the Natsarim were charged to do. You can read that in number 6. You took time off to guard your thoughts solely on Scripture, and you made all these really expensive sacrifices, and that's what Paul's going to get, hooked into doing in order to try to make nice with the arguing Jews in Acts 22. Nazareth, this was a town of sheepherders in Nazareth. So, Bethlehem had the same job. It's probably Migdal Fortress. That makes a lot of sense to me. Okay, and again, that's what my pastor was speculating. These are the Natsarim. And my pastor spent a lot of time, and I can't prove where he gets this, but he says these particular shepherds were guarding the temple sheep, and they weren't allowed in the temple. I don't know where he gets that, but he couldn't have pulled it out of thin air. Sort of gratuitous to say that. So, it makes a lot of sense. If this were true, that would give a lot of extra meaning to why Luke includes it and why these guys were visited. If they're excluded from temple service, but they're really believing in Christ, politically incorrect God's going to go out of his way to appear to them, not to the priests. But again, I don't know where my pastor got that. He's saying that these were the guys that were in charge of the temple sheep. And because they were in charge of the temple sheep that were sacrificed, the daily sacrifice of the temple, that they weren't allowed in the temple. They couldn't go to the temple. They weren't allowed there. They were excluded. Now, I don't know where he gets that, but if it's true, and he couldn't have pulled it out of thin air, then that makes this passage a lot more poignant. Angel of the Lord suddenly stood before him, and what? What did we just see back up here? Shine. Shone. Light. Angel's body of light. And yeah, that much light would be terribly frightening. I mean, angels are gorgeous, and they're so obviously superior to us. Fear is the first thing that's going to come into our mind. Oh, I must have done something wrong. And so oftentimes you'll see this in Scripture. Don't be afraid. He's going to say that, and the angel, whoever this angel is, probably Gabriel, he's going to say the same thing to Mary, just as he had to say it to Zecharias. So this is the second time an angel saying, don't be afraid, in Luke. The light is so light, it's terrifying. See, so he's stressing the lightness. Okay? So he's making a big issue of light, which he had already introduced here through Zecharias at the birth of John. And then he picks up on the theme again with the key word of Natsarim, those keeping watch, phulasso in Greek, and shone. A light so strong that they're frightened. Because see, this is there's a whole company of angels. Actually, they pass in review at the end. But the light is standing in front of them. They know it's an angel. These people are Gentiles. They believe, but they really don't have enough information because they're all, mucked up with their astrology. So to them, it looks like a star. But obviously, it's not a star. Again, I've gone through this too many times. I'm not going to bore you with it again. There's no star. It's an angel. Okay, so Luke picks up on light and the fact that it's an angel by drawing a parallel, balancing story. This, a group of Gentiles. This, to a group of Jewish shepherds who are Netzarim, watching over the flock. And again, it might be a temple flock. Like I said, I don't think my pastor would have pulled that out of thin air. It's totally gratuitous. Why did he say it? And if it's true, this has a lot more meaning. The people who are excluded from the temple, remember, Luke, thematically, this fits with what my pastor was saying. Luke opens the chapter with a guy who is entitled to be in the temple, is the son of a daughter of Aaron, and therefore maybe even entitled to be in the high priesthood. And it's his job to reject the entire temple priesthood thing, which should have subjected him to the death penalty. And his father basically condemns his son at birth because the angel gave him that Elijah role, and he agreed to it. And he raises his kid in the deserts. All right. So here are some other guys who are also ostracized by choice, keeping watch over a flock that they can't even bring into the temple because they're not allowed in the temple. Is the angel going to the temple? No, the angel's going to the fields and standing before who? Them, the shepherds. See, we've heard this story so many times. We take these words for granted, and we even think that we know what they mean. And when people talk about the Christmas nativity story, every single year, it's always the same old tired statue, the same plastic baby in a bale of hay, with maybe a live cow if somebody wants to get fancy, and a couple of kids, one playing Mary and one playing Joseph, and then the three wise men who were never actually there. And we're missing the real story. This is a blockbuster movie in the making that nobody's ever made. That's why what he said, what my pastor said about these guys being ostracized and taking care of temple sheep, makes a lot of sense, given how Luke introduced it. I just don't know how my pastor figured that out because I can't find the source information. But pretend it's true. Okay, so then opening up the chapter with a pariah named John the Baptist, who was born under suspicious circumstances, whose father, when he can finally talk, says something that alienates him from society, and therefore the kid forever lives alienated from society, paralleled by a group of Jewish shepherds who are alienated from society, but actually believe in Christ, paralleling these Gentiles who travel all that way to try to find Christ, and they're so, uneducated about the law that they think that they saw a star. But these shepherds aren't uneducated, even though they're shepherds, honey. They know it's an angel. They don't call it a star. They know that angels are called stars in the Old Testament. And so now watch this. It's really important. This is one of the things that really impressed me when my pastor went through the exegesis of this. Standard opening, don't be afraid, because it's normal to be afraid. Okay? Good news, again, this is the King's good news. Translators should always put the word King's or God's good news in front of this. The word euangelion is used in a specific cultural context of official notice from the ruler. And it should be translated with ruler's good news, king's good news, God's good news. Not just good news. Okay? Serious mistranslation there as far as I'm concerned. Great joy, joy is kara, unalloyed happiness, which will be for all people. Okay. Today, Savior, Christ the Lord, here's the sign. All right. The angel is being very how do you want to call it? He's expecting them to know exactly why and what this means. He's not saying hi. See, he's not doing. This is really important. Luke is again tracking to Matthew. The magi don't know anything. So there's some star that's going to lead them where? To the house where the kid is. They're led by the nose. They can't see the star in Jerusalem because the couple are in Jerusalem and Herod wants to kill the couple. But as soon as they leave the city, they can see the star. And of course they can see the star because the couple have left the city and are on the way back to Nazareth. And this is when the magi catch up with them. They had already gotten back to the house. They're in the house. The magi follow along because they're following the star, which is standing over the house, because the couple have returned to Nazareth. So look, Gentiles who don't know much, obviously they're politically, naive at least, are being led by an angel by the hand. And then they're led out by the angel. Well, they're actually just warned. The angel isn't leading them anymore. The same angel is now leading Joseph. They were following the angel that was leading Joseph. They were led by an angel that was leading Joseph. Okay, but look at over here. That's a group of Gentiles on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you got a group of Jewish shepherds in charge of the temple. Let's pretend temple sheep were ostracized from the temple as a result of that. In other words, they're taking on a job nobody else wants. And at Hanukkah, on a holiday, they're not taking the night off. They're not tsarim. They're keeping guard. So the angels come to them. And what do the angels say? What does the angel say besides the standard, do not be afraid, and I bring you good news? City of David, another name for Bethlehem, there's been born Christ the Lord. Ho Christos is the LXX for HaMashiach, meaning Messiah. Alright? What doesn't this angel do? The angel does not say here. See, again, it's the same. He's doing the same technique Matthew is. Matthew puts text here that shouldn't be here. Or it's text that, if you know Haggai 2, it's like, why isn't Haggai 2 being quoted? That's what should be said right there. What should this, in light of what Matthew recorded, what should verse 12 be saying? It shouldn't be a verse about signs. It should be, this verse 12 should say, hi, for today in the city of David there's been born a Savior. Verse 12 should read, follow me. The Magi followed that star, which was an angel. These are Jews who believe very clearly. So why isn't this angel saying, come on, let's move out, follow me? But they're not. The pastor made a really big stink about this. These shepherds are being given an option, a decision to make, to go look for. Okay? Go look for that baby. You know what that means? That means they have to, on their own, find a way to leave their sheep behind, get substitute shepherds who are willing to remain behind. Then they have to go to Bethlehem, which is, maybe a mile or two away. And then they have to start knocking on doors. Hi, did you have a newborn today? Well, why are you asking? Well, you see, some angel said that we're supposed to find this newborn wrapped in grave cloths. Oh, yeah. Okay, you can imagine how fast word was going to spread by people, shutting the door in their faces, saying, who the hell are you? Are you crazy? And of course, when they finally find the place where the child is, then all those people who slam the door in their faces are going to have, egg on their faces. Because here it is. Because you don't wrap a baby in grave cloths. And even if we pretended that that isn't grave cloth, lying in a feed trough, that's not what a normal mother would do with her kid. You understand that? This was a choice by the parents to wrap the baby that way and to put him in a feed trough. The parents are thinking of his future when they do that. They are so in awe of the meaning that they need to express it. They need an outlet of expression, and this is what they choose to use. This is Ezekiel 16 being referenced, and of course this is, bread of heaven. The whole idea of being the bread of life. Manna. Okay? So what the angel does to these guys is the opposite of what's happened here. The reverse. Here, they have to follow a star nobody else can see but them. But here, this angel, who they know is an angel, isn't telling them, hi, follow me. He's not telling them what house it is. He's not saying it's the 6th house on the left with the loud cow. He's saying, go look for a baby wrapped in cloth, which means they have to knock on doors. They have to do the looking. And then, shoot, here's all these angels suddenly appearing. See, angels can make themselves visible or not, singing glory to God in the highest. And this is mistranslated, but I'm not going to bother with it right now. A pastor made a big stink about how bad that translation is, but I got to move on. The point is there's one angel talking to them very clearly, and he's telling them to go look. The opposite of what happened here with the opposite kind of people, Gentiles. And so now these Natsarim, dedicated ones, dedicated to their job, now have a new job. Go look for this kid. Which means banging on a lot of doors. It's already after night, so people aren't going to be too likely to want to talk. And the only thing they can say to explain what they're doing is, hi, this is what happened to us. These are obviously not stupid shepherds. They are being told to exercise initiative. They are going to know by the quotation of these two ideas. This is also Isaiah 1 and 2. Okay? They know the Bible's verse is being referenced here. And they're left alone. Hi, we'll see, we saw some angels, and suddenly there were a whole bunch of them. This is what they said. Okay, so these shepherds know well that when they start knocking on doors, people are going to laugh at them. Because the whole world isn't seeing these angels. Only the shepherds are seeing them. Just like nobody else saw the star but the magi. Because it wasn't a star, it was an angel. See? The angels leave. They don't guide the shepherds to where the baby is. There's no star guiding them. And there's no star guiding the magi either. It's an angel. But these people are too dumb to live. These people actually know something. And they don't need guides. They just need to be told, hi, go do this. But actually, he doesn't even tell them to go. He says, this is your sign how you'll know that this birth that I'm telling you took place. He said, this is going to be your sign that what I told you is true. Okay, they got to go look for it then. So when the angels left, the shepherds start talking about, well, let's go. Let's go to Bethlehem. So they came in a hurry and found their way. They knocked on a bunch of doors. Hi, are there any newborns in the house? Why? Well, you see, we just got this visit from angels that nobody else can see but us, so I know that we sound crazy, but will you humor us? And was a baby born? Because there was supposed to be some baby born that's the king of the promised Messiah. Yeah. So by the time they get to Mary and Joseph, they are probably not alone. There are probably a bunch of curious people behind them following. At least to make fun of them. And boy, oh boy, does everybody have their egg on their face when they finally find the sign, just as promised right here. Shepherds, not magi. Nobody leading them. No star of Bethlehem, no angel even leading them. They have to go look. They had to first decide, let's go. And they had to appoint whoever were the junior shepherds to watch the flocks, because they can't be, traveling with a bunch of clanging sheep in the middle of the night. So they see him on the day he's birthed. And of course, when they had seen this, they suddenly are shepherds of men. They're no longer shepherds of sheep. So they have a change of occupation. All right? They made known the statement, means they published it about. Okay, I'm trying to keep out too much of the Greek and criticism and stuff like that. I want you to see the flow of the story. And everybody wondered what it then told. So you see, they became evangelists, they became heralds also of his birth. So you got Gentiles here who are guided by an angel, and you got Jews here who are visited by an angel but not guided, and told what to look for and to go by the way, go on your own and do this, which means they have to up and change. They have to get substitute shepherds. And of course this changes their whole life once they find him. And all the people that were the onlookers and the people getting ready to make fun of them for being so crazy, because they had to knock on all these doors to find him. So obviously they have a different job. They're now shepherds of men. And then, get this, they went back to their job. Their job is changed at this point, but at the same time that night, they still had a job to do. They didn't run around glorifying and praising themselves. See, we were selected, we were chosen, we got visited by angels, look how wonderful we are, we must be special, why me? No, they're busy praising God. They're looking at God, just like the couple who put him in the manger rather than somewhere else. There's a royal baby going to be the savior of the universe, and they put him in a feed trough. So what? The shepherds go back to feeding and taking care of the sheep, thinking of God, just like the couple are thinking of God when they put Christ in the manger and wrap him with grave clothes. Meanwhile, they travel a lot, because you gotta, when you graze your sheep, you gotta move them. So they're spreading their story, and eventually, at some point, they stopped being shepherds of sheep and started being shepherds of men. It doesn't say how long it took, but see, you could tell that this was going to grow into something. But meanwhile, short term at least, they're still shepherds guarding sheep. They're not glorifying themselves for having been visited by the angels. The same kind of thing is going on here. Again, I'm trying to show the parallel, that how Luke is tracking to Matthew. See, having been warned by God in a dream, these magi are not yet strong enough to see the angel face to face. But they're not seeing stars anymore. Now they're getting dreams. And they just leave for their own country by another way. Okay? In other words, they don't hang behind and say, hi, it was an angel, not a star. They don't hang behind and glorify themselves for having been visited or seeing the kid. They don't run around town trying to make something of, capitalize on, name dropping. They're not doing any name dropping. And they're not trying to make money off their experience. They're not trying to make money off their office, which is obviously going to be a witness office from here on out. Same thing with the shepherds. They go back to being shepherds. But obviously, at some point, in order for this to occur, they're not going to have time to be shepherds of sheep anymore. They're going to have to do something else. And their lives change. Meanwhile, as long as they're shepherds, whoever they run into, they can tell the story. You see how God does something? He doesn't use Madison Avenue. He isn't politically correct. He didn't... See, the typical human being would say, okay, if Christ... This is the theme of Jesus Christ Superstar, which used to be one of my favorite operettas. And this is what Isaiah was saying in Isaiah 53:2. Walo chadar. No glory in his incarnation. The magi arrive ostentatiously. Christ arrives in a manger. The magi arrive in the big, bustling, famous city of Jerusalem with its famous temple that was a wonder of the world of architecture. he arrives in some add-on room that was either a guest room or a stable that was kind of the equivalent of our attached garage, in modern Western America. Okay, track home, attached garage, that was what they did with their stables. Okay? Look at the contrast. We would expect, see, when we see something like this, suddenly appeared angel multitude of heavenly hosts. The skies light up and there's thousands upon thousands of angels. Okay? That's the kind of thing we expect the glory of God to look like. We don't expect it to be a manger. The Jews were expecting Messiah to show up at temple, do a couple of really fancy miracles. That's going to be the theme of Matthew 4. Flash. They want flash. They want flash, they want respectability, and they certainly don't want somebody who's suspected of being illegitimate of birth to start with. Born in secret. I mean, it's not really a secret. He had to register at temple right here. And you don't expect this telling of the story to just use the word star to indicate that it's Hanukkah, and for Matthew to play on the fact that these guys are netzarim, phulasso, Greek verb, shepherds, guarding, angels suddenly shining around them, but not at the temple. So that's another reason why the sotto voce soft style is used by, Matthew sort of set the tone of it. Luke is playing back to it. Because you're almost speechless to realize the quietness that God selects to reveal himself individually to individuals in a humorous way, while these flashy people are doing everything backwards. And they're the ones who are supposed to know, but they don't. And the ones who are ostracized are instead visited by angels. Not the temple people, not the priests, not the religious types, but the ones who are actually, if what my pastor is saying is true, this got a lot of punch. These guys were ostracized from living a religious life. They were ostracized from temple. You can't live a Jewish life if you're ostracized from temple. So the angels go to them. Just as John the Baptist is going to go out to the wilderness and reject the temple by God's order, which his own father, at John's birth, affirms, knowing full well that's political suicide. In order to what? Shine upon those who sit in darkness. Well, in the wilderness, away from the temple, it's pretty dark. And those people are going to be brighter than the people sitting in all the lights at the Feast of Lights with the Son of God, born King of the Jews, right in their midst. It's going to be a key word, especially in Mark and John. In their very midst. Herod wants to kill that guy that's highlighted in blue on the left. Can't find him. Can't see him. Yeah, can't see the star. Yeah, can't see Haggai too either. So, if you can't see the road marks to tell you when and where he is, well, I guess you can't kill him then, huh? So these guys are all in the dark. And these guys who are actually sitting in the dark, it's dark out at night, shepherds keeping watch over their flocks. Suddenly, there shines what? A great light of angels. Who doesn't lead them. They're enlightened by Scripture. The angel doesn't need to lead them. The angel tells them, in fact, to end up leading a whole bunch of other very curious and wanting to insult people who they have to knock on the doors first to the baby. Because there are a whole bunch of houses before you get to the house, wherever Mary was with Joseph. They have to knock on a lot of doors before they find her. Okay? See? Angels leave. They determine they're going to go anyway, no matter how much ridicule they get in. And they find their way. Which means they're going house to house, knocking on doors. Did you have a baby born today? Well, what's it to you, mister? Well, see, we were just visited by some angels. Get out of here. Bam. Door slams in their face. And then after they leave to go to the next house, like little salesmen, the guy at the last house that just shut the door in their face is opening the door crack to listen to them to repeat themselves. And then he follows at a distance. Yeah. And when they finally get this, and they get to Mary and Joseph, they got a trail of surreptitious or not so surreptitious hawkers and mockers and other visitors behind them. Because on the one hand, you want to mock them, so you're hoping that they knock on every door and don't find nothing. But what if they find the Messiah? Do you secretly want to know that there is one? You see? So we're going to stop there and resume with the rest of Mary's story in the next increment.